248-539-9797. Let's get back to your open line calls. Anthony is next. Hi, Anthony.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
I wanted to make a comment about the sports gambling in the arenas.
Yeah.
I think it's a smart business move by the owners and the venues, because if, people are betting outside of the arena, they just leave if the game's up, they're up 20 points or whatever. If they're betting in the arena, then you have to wait around and see if your ticket's going to win, so you stick it in the arena a little bit longer.
Okay, we're losing you here, Anthony. Your cell phone's dropping, but I'm paraphrasing here, and hopefully you get a better cell. You'll stick out to the end of the game because you're going to see if you get the cover.
Yeah, you're going to cover in both sides. So one side might want to make sure that their ticket's going to cover, and then they got to cash their ticket at the arena, so they're going to stick around to the end.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It'll definitely have an impact on that.
And, yeah, especially if if it's a 20-point score and it's a 13-point spread or something like that. Usually the arena gets empty, but a lot of people will stick around just to cash their tickets.
Oh, it's true. That's a good point. Mike in Lapeer is next. Hi, Mike.
How you guys doing?
What's up?
I got 2 points about the sports betting. One, that guy talking about horse racing being comparable, I don't appreciate being called a degenerate gambler, and I'm sure Mike Valenti doesn't either. But horse racing is a totally different concept because the horse tracks do not own the horses. They're making money off the bets because that's their business. It's a venue. Now, if the Fords want to sell their field to somebody, or whoever's doing it, I don't know who's doing it, but that's why it's a straw dog argument. Horse betting has nothing to do with it.
I think it's a really good argument you just made. A good point you made. Which helps to explain the difference between the two.
Well, I just was actually calling to respond to the insult.
Oh,
I don't like that.
I don't know. Did you insult him, Doug?
Bet on horses.
Well, he doesn't like any. There are some degenerate gamblers, degenerate drinkers, or some degenerate. I mean,
right. That's why I said I don't know what the percentage of degenerate gamblers is to the gambling crowd to begin with, but
there is. I'll put it to you like this. Yeah, the guy went to an extreme that sent the text. I don't want a bunch of degenerate gamblers at games now. There is a different feel at a track in terms of the clientele than there is at a game.
I like his point, though. His point is, and it's a very valid point. The difference with a horse track is it's just the venue.
Yep.
That's all it is. There's no skin in this with the horses. They don't own the horses. It's different. Ford Field is owned by the Ford family. They own the Detroit Lions. That's the team that's on the field. And if you're going to take bets, you can take bets on that game, which seems weird. That's a big difference between the two. Let
me back up and reset so people know why we're talking about this. There was a report over the weekend from ESPN citing sources saying that the Cubs are considering a sports book at Wrigley. And it says the Chicago Cubs have considered opening a sports book at Wrigley Field and locations just outside the friendly confines. Multiple sources familiar with the team's thinking told ESPN. When I read this, the Chicago Cubs have considered opening a sports book. That doesn't sound like the Chicago Cubs are considering renting out space to a sports book. That says the Chicago Cubs have considered opening a sports book. If the Cubs themselves own a sports book, that means the team itself can profit from losses. The team itself can profit from a cover or an over-under. If indeed I'm reading this right, and when I read the Cubs have considered opening a sports book, that's not the Cubs have considered renting space to a sports book. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but you've always said you're uncomfortable with the idea of there being in-stadium gambling. I think it's more uncomfortable to think that the team might be the one that's operating the gambling.
That's a big issue.
I mean, if you're a really good or really bad team, I mean, if your team stinks and you don't have a lot of money coming in at the gate and the TV ratings are down and you start going, well, we can't profit if we lose this game. You can profit dramatically.
You know what's going to be uncomfortable if this passes and we see it in our stadiums? is that when that over-under hits, there'll be a huge cheer from the crowd for, like, an opposing team scores a touchdown, right? And the crowd goes nuts. Why? Well, because they've got the over.
The over. I mean, you still, like, to this day, guess what there are? People who've got the
people
over
do it
sitting
anyway.
at Ford
I
Field.
get that, but it's different.
It'll be more common.
Yeah.
248-539-9797. Don in Armada. Hi, Don.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Hey, Don.
I have kind of varying opinions on this. One, I have no problem with them having a sports book in the stadium. But number two, I think that the game that is taking place at that stadium should be exempt from any kind of gambling. I don't think they should be able to bet on that game, whether it be prop bets or bets on the game or over under or whatever the case may be. Because like you alluded to, Doug, that the biggest problem or concern in the history of sports betting is manipulation of that event. And even if you had prop bets or whatever, and I'm not saying this would happen, but you got so-and-so player communicates with his buddy up in the stands and said, hey, go put X amount of dollars on my next at bat, and then I'm going to strike out. And I'm not saying that that's realistic, but, that opens that door for things such as that. So I really think that they should avoid that and just maybe have other baseball games or whatever that are going on at the same time, but should not be able to bet on the game that's taking place there at the stadium. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
No, I mean, I had, like, just a in-game betting, yeah. Bet I'm going to strike out. Here's my sign when I tap my helmet 3 times. I mean, whatever it might be.
And that's not unheard of, or even an umpire or whatever the case may be. It opens Pandora's box, and it doesn't pass the smell test to me.
I mean, we could make the argument that professional athletes are so well compensated that they're not going to need to make that much. But I guess
but it's not. It's happened before.
It has happened before. You're right. And it's the umpires too, right? The umpires are the ones that aren't getting filthy rich. I'm sure that's the Tim Donaghy thing, right, for the NBA. 248-539-9797. We'll get to more of your calls on this. 12:05, we'll reset our champ and chump. 12:30, this shocked a lot of Metro Detroiters. If it ever happened to you, I bet it has to many of you. That's at 12:30, 97.1.